Come, let us explore this dawn's a meditation class and group practice that we too could meditate like a Jedi. This morning's passage is the 17th bit of the Unwaning Victory Banner composed by Prahivaja, the great Buddhist performer. Together, let us relaxingly recite, as both space and the concept of space are unoriginated. Conceptual thought itself is like open space. When space, like intention, is examined without attachment, self-benefit manifests as great as open space. So, for this to make sense, we have to review the fundamental method of enlightenment. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. Now that suckiness is known by many names. It's known as yang, or patriarchy, or being on the right, or being an acolyte of the Buddha's foolish cousin. And this 90% refers to not just humans in general, but also to meditation teachers. So there are meditation teachers who are rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And these are the folks, many of them sincere, implore their students to over-focus and over-analyze. Now they give it fancy Sanskrit names such as shamatha or vipassana, or if you prefer Pali, samatha and vipassana. But either way, when we over-focus, we exhaust the medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, causing us to involuntarily present with symptoms of depression, no less trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. However, good news, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Our spinal cord is known by a fancy name, such as the autonomic nervous system. Now, when we cooperate with it passively, amazing things happen. The anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seed of empathy, which uses dread to create compassion and desire to create love, is stimulated. Sounds pretty good, eh? Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle part of our autonomic nervous system, known as its sympathetic aspect. It is wired to help us to notice in a very special way, to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which is the opposite of the rigidity of concentration. What is it that we have evolved to notice? We have evolved to notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. And because we are not arbitrarily focusing on one thing or no thing, we are completely open to all manner of phenomena, the vast expanse of infinite possibility, the external and internal, the physical and mental, the pleasurable and painful, the interesting and boring, the glorious and grotesque. But what do we do with all that stuff that we notice? Every time we exhale, we are wired to automatically access the tips of our autonomic nervous system, known as its parasympathetic aspect, which has evolved to support the physical relaxation and mental release of that which we noticed during our previous inhalation, to the point that it fleetingly feels less stressful, less permanent, and less defining, and figuratively feels as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. Now, there are people, many of them with good intentions, who insist that thinking is wrong. We must not think. Even though in the seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is mindfulness, and the first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. We're supposed to notice whatever comes up, even if it's thoughts. And so the author of the text reminds us. Now let's go back to the text. The author of the text reminds us that not only is so as we relax into our exhalation, whatever space we perceive during our inhalation could feel as non-graspable as if it had never been born. And not only is that true for that which we observe, that is also true for the very act of observing. So as we relax into our exhalation, whatever perception, emotion, intention, thought, memory, or imagining we experienced during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was fleetingly, as non-graspable, as if it had never been born. We are taught by some teachers, many of them well-meaning, that thinking is bad, that thinking is wrong. But as we relax into our exhalation, we are already wired to experience that whatever conceptual thought we experienced during our previous inhalation could feel as a non-graspable as wide open space. For instance, imagine you had a great thick, heavy picnic blanket and you laid it upon the lawn, and you lied upon your back, gazing up at the sky, the cloudless blue azure sky, and you reached up towards that sky with splayed fingers, and then enthusiastically balled them into fists and brought them back to your face. When we open our hands, we will not find any sky. We will not find any blue. The illusion of the infinite azure sky is non-graspable. So are our thoughts. Whether our thoughts are dull or sharp or useful or destructive, or interesting or boring, whatever they are, no matter how they seem as we breathe in, as we relax into our exhalation, they are rendered inert, at least until the next inhalation again. When space-like intention is examined without attachment, self-benefit manifests as vast as open space. This is really cool. Check this out. Many so-called manifesting coaches will tell you to write down on a piece of paper everything you want freedom from, all the yucky stuff, and on the other side of the paper, in a different column, write down the opposite, everything you desire. And then they ask you to make vision boards and focus on those things and use self-talk and use empowering assumptive questions, all the while acting as if we weren't already wired to dread things that are bad for us and desire things that seem good for us. I really love the movie from the 90s. Yes, the 90s, children, when the crust of the earth was still cooling. I love the movie from the 90s, The Devil's Advocate. There are several soliloquies delivered by Al Pacino in that movie. And in one of them, I'm going to terribly paraphrase, he explains that humans have sharpened their greed with a laser-like intensity that can split diamonds. We are already wired to experience aversion for that which seems dangerous and avarice for that which seems beneficial. We don't have to contrive it. We don't need a list. We don't need to present that list to a real or imaginary celestial entity. We don't need to present it to a demon. We don't need to make sacrifices, literal or figurative. As we sit, as we lie down or sit or walk around our blocks as we practice, as we breathe in, we are already wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We are noticed, so we can as we walk around the block, we could see things that we dread and we desire automatically, effortlessly. Additionally, as we breathe in, we're wired to emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. So as we're walking around the block, or as we're sitting on our meditation cushion, or as we're lying on a couch or our bed, dreads and desires could float across, could cartwheel across the stage of our mind effortlessly, spontaneously. We don't even have to give them a label other than the demonstrative pronoun this. We're already wired to notice these things. We don't have to shove at them. We don't have to reach at them. As we relax into our exhalation, all the dreads and desires we noticed during our previous inhalation suddenly feel less tantalizing, less stressful, less permanent, less defining, less solid, less graspable. This is the ultimate form of protection. For all my tantric Buddhists out there, we do not need to petition a Dharmapala. We do not need to chant mantras or make visualizations or perform offerings or perform vows to protect us from the things we naturally dread. When the things we dread cartwheel across the stage of our mind, it's enough to just notice and relax in harmony with our inhalations and our exhalations. How do we do that? As we feel our diaphragm pull down during our inhalation, silently and mentally we could recite the demonstrative pronoun this. as we feel our diaphragm relax, deflate, we could silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease. That is the key to effortlessly noticing and relaxing. That is the key to the effortless practice of mindfulness and meditation. With every breath, we are given a choice. Do we actively compete against our autonomic nervous system and be just very controlling about what's going on in our brain? Or do we passively cooperate? This is why the Buddha was able to explain that it's possible to master his path in as little as 7 days, even practicing once every 12 hours, for as long as is comfortable for you. Let's return to this morning's lesson text. When space-like intention is examined without attachment, self-benefit manifests as vast as open space. Notice what you dread as you breathe in, relax as you breathe out. Notice what you desire as you breathe in, relax as you breathe out. And safety and good fortune take care of themselves. Not always according to our preferred timetable, not always according to our limited imagination, but in a surprisingly effective way. Consider my life, if you will. I have a shit ton of disabilities that began in utero, and additional disabilities that were heaped upon that, like icing on a carrot cake, or like a schmear on a bagel. And I've had some people who were actively trying to harm me during this period. And yet, I'm still alive. And yet, I have shelter, I have clothing, I have food, I have water, I have medical care. I have opportunities to receive teachings and master teachings and then present them to others on the digital medium of the internet and in print form as far as PDFs and eventual books. I have these opportunities given me and these people in my life to I have doctors and nurses and people to get me to doctor's appointments and people to make sure I have food and all that kind of good stuff. I did not actively manifest any of these. If a brain-damaged shithead such as myself can experience the relative freedom from peril and the relative abundance of having their needs met, so can you. Just by cooperating with the autonomic nervous system that the ancients nicknamed our Tathagata, that they nicknamed our Buddha nature. Now you might say that it sounds like you're being asked not to focus and not to think au contraire. Most cars come with a spare tire. And for the last 20 years or so, maybe 30 years, those spare tires have been really small. They're like donut tires. So our cars are not designed to run on 3 normal tires and 1 donut tire in perpetuity. Nor have our backs evolved to thrive sitting in a car like that. It's a stopgap measure. Similarly, our brains have evolved to use the prefrontal cortex sparingly, intermittently. The more we cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow from not a scattered spontaneity, but a centered spontaneity. Moving from our centered spontaneity, we're able to use the full palette of our central nervous system in the most sustainable way. Even the scary bits, even the dangerous bits. Consider our amygdala, seat of anxiety and aggression. There are times in a survival context where getting, hulking out is useful. If you have to protect two neighbor kids from a bear and buy them time to run away, you'll want to hulk out. The amygdala is your friend. If you're trying to, once again, forgive my lack of imagination, if you're in the woods and you're trying to set up a situation where you will be less tantalizing to a bear, the prefrontal cortex is an excellent tool. It can give you flashes of insight that you could not have possibly contrived. It can help you to read. The prefrontal cortex is not our enemy. The question is, how do we treat our brain? Do we use our brain wisely or foolishly? In Tarzan, Lord of Greystoke, which came out in the mid-'80s, there's a horrible scene where a chimpanzee is playing with a pistol, and the inevitable happens. There's bloodshed. So do we treat our brain the way a chimpanzee would treat a loaded pistol, or the way an expert marksman would treat a loaded pistol? Do we treat our brain the way a child would deal with an X-Acto knife, or the way a seasoned surgeon would deal with an X-Acto knife? Cooperating passively with our autonomic nervous system through the tool of noticing and relaxing in harmony with our inhalations and our exhalations is the key to the abundant life all of us are wired to desire. Having completed our opening lesson, it is time for us to shift gears. It is Yoda Monday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sunday Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, let's play with the free practice text, which is available for free download in the description area below the video or below the live stream. The easiest way to keep track of our first collection of 144 inhalations is to rest the great knuckle at the base of our middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our laps. Let's use our right thumb to count the next 12 inhalations, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Allow me to remind you that we can use the creases on the fingers of our left hand to count 12 sets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of 12 inhalations each. All the while resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left, palms up in our lap. The key to maintaining optimal posture while meditating is to pull the center of our diaphragm down as we inhale, and then to release it as we inhale. This causes our posture to effortlessly optimize. Now, we are already wired to do this. We're simply cooperating with our intention. Every time we inhale, the diaphragm at the base of our pleural cavity is already wired to pull down towards our lower abdomen. All we have to do is stop resisting that. Even just momentarily. Let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's dusk meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.